We can start, sir.
Okay, perfect. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Let's first take the question raised by one of the madam. So the Microsoft managed keys or customer managed keys, where we can see and how we can configure. So generally, before I go and show you how you basically attach keys for encrypting the disk, because as I said, there are two types. One second. Let me first add that in there. That's easy. If you look at here, right, there are encryption at rest and encryption in transit. I'll repeat again. Encryption is in transit is when you are basically creating a VPN, you make sure that or connectivity to your on-prem data center, make sure the data is encrypted. So that is how you need to do that. But if you want to do within Azure, there are two, like the disk, especially let's talk about disk encryption. If you want to do VM disk encryption to be sure that the data is encrypted, or the disk, whether it's OS disk or data disk, both are encrypted, then encryption rates is the common picture. But how that happens within Azure actually? So there is a concept called, let's say, either MMS, sorry, MMK, Microsoft managed key / customer managed keys. That means you create the key and you also manage it. And that key you need to attach to the disk. So, for example, this is my virtual machine, and the virtual machine has a disk. Now, there is a concept called, or there's a tool called Azure Key Vault. Azure Key Vault is one of the tools within Azure that helps you to keep the secrets and keys. Now the secret can like SSL certificate or some sort of like access keys or storage, either access keys or MMS, that for example storage access keys or storage access keys, or you can keep the customer managed keys, etc. So that is, you have to keep into Azure Key Vault. So in that Key Vault, basically all the secrets are placed. That is a very secure environment where you keep it. And then if you really want to do that, the first and foremost thing, if you have the virtual machine and the virtual machine has a disk, which is once you create the virtual machine, disk is by default created. That disk by default comes with no encryption. But then if you really want to attach that key, what you need to do is first create Azure Key Vault. Let me show you. That will help madam to understand how to do that within Azure. So if you go to Azure Key Vault, as of now there is no Key Vault created. Let me create Key Vault. Let's put ACP. Maybe I'll give a name. Key Vault. Then you choose standard, premium. I will choose standard. If you choose premium, it also comes with hardware security model. Hardware security model means is like a physical box, which Microsoft will provision for you. But obviously that comes with a cost. And we do not want that. Rather, we choose standard that comes with the Key Vault option rather than your hardware based. I'll keep that 7, and then you can just create it. Once you create a keyword, you see that the deployment is in process, and more or less this will be successful in a second. Yeah, the status is okay, the keyword has been created. Just yeah, the deployment is complete. If I go to the resource, I see I can see this keys, secrets, as I said, SSL certificate. You can basically keep those things within Azure keyword. That is the safest place, and basically that's a place made by Microsoft to store your keys, secret, and certificate. There is no other place where you can keep your all these things, all these objects, basically. Now, once you have created keyword, then if you look at in the keyword settings, there is yeah, if you look at what you need to look at once you keyword created, first check from the top, yeah, whether you have chosen standard, whether you have right region where your virtual machine is sitting, etc., etc. Then do you have any access policies to apply? As of now, I don't need to. And then if you go to the settings, and you need to go access configuration, where you can uh, check whether you need Azure role-based access control or vault access policy, etc. There are a couple of options, but as of now, I'm not going too much details because it will take a lot of time to access. But my point is, first you need to create Azure keyword, and once you have the Azure keyword, you need to generate some keys, and that generate keys comes if you go to uh, let's say there is a disk encryption sets, and once you create this encryption set, again you choose the SAP, name it disk ENTR encrypt set. There is one person instead of it was in US East, right? Let me check just a second. Make sure that it is in the same region. Yes, yeah. Then if you look at keyword name, you choose the one we just created, the keyword, you see, keyword demo, and then just select a key. As of now, we do not have a key. Key. Oh, keyword is created. Let's see. Yes, so I have created the key, and now I go and create it. You don't need to look at here, just gonna create. Encryption tab. If you look at here, there are three options. When you choose the encryption key type, there are double encryption. Of course, you don't want to do both encryption. That will cost money. Plus, you might sort of do something, you do something. So this option is not recommended. This one, confidential disk encryption with customer key. I do not want that. Rather, as I said, we want to use encryption at rest with customer managed key. So I'll choose that option. And then I think we are good to go. And the one we created was done. Yes. So the sequence is first create a key vault, attach that key vault with disk encryption set. And in that disk encryption set, choose an option like customer managed keys and create a key. Once you create that key, one second, let this deployment finish. The resource right because it reached we use we have chosen the same group. What's wrong? Let me check. Something is not good. Let me figure it out and come back to you tomorrow morning. Something went wrong because now this error I hardly see because this is not about us. Strange actually. Should go to the key vault. Probability issue. I'll figure it out and we'll come back. But you know, madam, just to answer your question, what you do first is create a key vault. And once you create a key vault, you have to do disk encryption set where you add the key. Once you create a key, that key needs to be attached to the disk of a virtual machine. So what if you have the virtual machine somewhere here, then you go to a disk here, and the disk, once you click here, under the encryption, you get an option to key management. Now it is disabled because probably the virtual machine is running. If it is in running state, you are not allowed to change the key. But if the virtual machine has been stopped, then you can come back again and change the custom managed key and the key name which we just set into the disk encryption, give that name and just attach, then you are done. Then the by default that disk will be encrypted and the key is attached to it. If you want to retrieve, you should know that key actually. Yeah, is that answer the question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is at the creation phase. I got to know the
Yeah, first.
creation phase.
Yeah. So basically, like I said, the key vault, you must have the Azure key vault. Sorry, key vault. It's wrong typing. Azure key vault, you should have it because, as I said to that, key vault is generally used for creating secrets, your access keys, or even certificates, etc. And you must have it if you really want to do encryption within Azure. This key vault also help you to do VM backup. Clear, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Uh, now what I want to do today is, I mean, obviously we this morning we had storage related stuff. So what I can do first, something is wrong. Okay, so what we can do, as I told you, like storage accounts, you first need to create, before you need to create like blob storage or file or table or cubes. What you really need to have is first is a storage account. Once you create a storage account, by default you see the blob, table, file, etc. Let me show you that. If you want, I can create, otherwise I can create, show you the existing one, but let me create for you. What you do, you first go to either create resource or search it here, storage account. And then you create a new storage account. And keep the ACP. Let me create new resource group. ACP storage. Use ACP storage. Okay. If while creating, there are a couple of options. If you have standard, then you see that you get all the options for application, the LRS, GRS, ZRS, etc. All the options. But if you choose premium, then you don't get all the access. You only get LRS or ZRS. So that's the reason when you are really want to make use of all the replications, better keep it standard. That's the reason it is also by default chosen by Microsoft. Then you can go to next. When you really want, let's say networking, you keep by default public from all networks. All network means public plus virtual network. Whichever virtual network you have access to the storage account. You can disable the public and only use private. That means from the rest of the world over the internet, nothing will be accessed. Only the internal VNet and resources can make an access to that. Then I'll keep default. I'll keep all the settings default. Encryption, as I said, you can use customer managed keys or your own keys. If you choose custom managed keys, again, it will all ask select the key vault, etc. Madam, just I told you, right? Once you have created the key vault, you have to create a key vault. Or if you have key vault, it will ask you, and the one we created, you attach it. If you don't want key vault to use, but you want hardware, then hardware key vault you can choose. Um, so I'll keep the previous options as it is. Microsoft managed keys, and then what's the issue? Okay. There's no tag review, and then move on. So once validation is passed, then you can create it. Now, if you look at the storage account is created, once storage account is created, you will see all the storage types: the container, the file share, the queues, and tables. Plus, you can, for the storage account, you can give access basically. If you go to access control, you can add the role assignment, who needs to have the roles. If you have the active directory, etc., you have the admin roles. You can deny some assignment for the users, etc. So that is how you control the access to the number of people from the role assignment. If you go to the access keys, which I just mentioned, if you really want to connect to the storage account from outside, what you need is you have to give this key, show key. You copy that key and you have to pass it on to the person. Once you pass it on the person, when he's trying to access the storage account, it will ask for the key. So you provide this key, and with that key, he will able to access it. So that is how it works. Otherwise, it's not possible from the outside or whichever network you want to connect without that. These keys you can rotate. You see there is option to rotate the keys every month, every 30 days, etc. Depends on what is your security policy. Like, hey, I want my keys to be rotated every quarter or every month, etc. So accordingly, you can rotate those keys. Once you create a storage account, as I said, you get an option to create different content like blob. If you create a blob, for example, so let me create a container. Let's say ACP container. See, it always said that you create access level to private. In advanced scripting, unless you really want scope, you can add it, but you keep it default and you create it. Then you go to that container and maybe you upload a file, for example. Let me upload a file. Let's say Azure. So I have uploaded the file. Now, if you really want to so if you look at now, the file is uploaded. So basically how it is, like, you have the storage account, you have the storage account. Then what we have done, we have created, sorry, so we have created a storage account. Storage account. And in that storage, as I said, there are a couple of options, the blob, the table, etc. But if I've chosen blob, which is my object storage for unstructured data, where I can keep my file, photos, etc. This is object storage, where I have unstructured data. And in that blob, what I have done, I have created a container. That means you can have n number of containers, like a folder. Container is nothing but a folder, just assume that. And in that folder, you are keeping the files or pictures, etc. And whenever you want, you can access it. You have permission to that accessing that particular file. For example, if you click it here, you get that particular account. One second, storage account container. This is the container we created. And this is file basically. And this file, once you open, what you can do is, there are a couple of options, right? You need to look at how big the size is, whether it's a hot tier or you want to change the tier. And then you can create a metadata for the file. That metadata, again, it goes into the different table that's I told you, table storage. And this table storage, no matter what, table storage is only option for keyword or metadata. There's no other place where you can keep your keys, actually, key value pairs. If you look at the version, you can enable basically versioning, or you can leave it by default. The snapshot, once you take the snapshot, if you create a snapshot, that means it's create another copy actually of that particular file, because if the file has been deleted, or if something goes wrong, you have additional copy of that snapshot. There's a concept called generate SAS, which is shared access signature. And that shared access signature, you can allocate someone to access that file, and you can set the time actually. So say, hey, you can access this file between this period and that period. You can set the permission, read, write, etc., etc. You can delete that file, all the permission. But if you really want that he should see that file or the folder, etc., you basically give the permission. And you set the time, like when he should start, what time zone he is in, and when he should finish. You can even do control of particular IP. So let's assume that your public IP or even a private IP, if you access internally, that IP, I'll put it here. That means only you as a person with that IP only will have an access. If you change the IP or machine, then you will not get access, because I allowed that specific IP to basically connect to. Then you generate this SAS token and give the URL and token to that person. And with that token and URL, he will able to access that particular picture. So these are the controls you can set primarily and allow users to get access to. Yeah. Any questions so far? And the containers, you can create a number of containers here. You see, I have created one container and keep one file, but you can add another container and keep another file, and keep that container access separately. Only admit, and that access you can basically modify.
आता सुकर ना लबे
so you can keep that sorry, not this one, I'll close. You can create containers and add number of files. And the files is nothing but an object because it's the object storage, right? You're basically putting an object into that container. The same thing, if you want to create a file, you can create a file. You create a file, give the name. As I said, file has uh, doesn't come with archived. You only have three options. You can choose whichever is available. You get maximum 5 TB of the capacity, and you can create that file share. And once you create that file share, then you can add files into that folder, and remotely you can access it over the network because it is file share network, which is, I told you, like it runs on the network only. So like that, there are a couple of options you can choose, depends on your company needs. And or maybe if you want to show to the student, you create some use cases that you can create bunch of, wherever you create a virtual machine, what you can do, you in the virtual machine you add the tags, keep adding the tag, and you see that once you have the storage account, the tags will be automatically stored into the tables basically. And in the table you will see that, hey, what virtual machine with key value pair has been added. And that is also a verification where how many virtual machines you have and what kind of tags are there. Even if you want to recover, and if you forget the tag which you added, you can basically get that tag from the table itself. So there are recovery mechanism which help you to, in case of failure of the virtual machine or you want to retrieve, you can use the tables to because this storage is nothing but your data where you can, whenever and whatever time you need it, you can retrieve. That is the purpose basically, right? We are keeping the backup copy for not basically moving forward. For the moving forward, not to stop in between. If there is a, sometimes we forget, like for example, I went to vacation and there's a password change, and if there is no key you remember, then you forget, and then you really need to look at, hey, what password I've set a couple of days before I go on vacation. So that is where this databases will help you out to retrieve from. Any questions so far? No question? Any chat message? So, ma'am, I think I answered your question, correct?
Yes, sir.
So I'll take it off to be sure that. And tomorrow I also do one thing, try to fix that problem, but also I will show you like VPC pairing between two. Where's that? My whiteboard. To give you more hands-on, because then you understand how you need to work on different things. So what I can do tomorrow, early morning, I'll set up some lab today in the evening. So what I can do, I create a one VNet here in one region 1, and a VNet, and I create another VNet, 1, region 2, and within that I'll create 2 Windows-based virtual machines, and we can do RDP to get the access to that. And in between, we can set up a VPC peering. And even if the VPC peering is set up with, let's say, this 10 network, 10.0.0.0/24, this is 16, and this is 20 network, 0.0.0.0/20/16. Even if they can, even IP of this machine can ping to each other. That means they can reach over the network, but still they cannot connect to each other, because if I from this machine 1, I want access of machine 2, I still won't be able to connect, because the port or NSG, network security group, I will try not to open it on one of the machine. That means I'm not opening inbound access to that virtual machine, which is if it is RDP, that means 3389 as the port number. I will not open it. Just we check the connection. If the connection is not working, I'll go back in front of you and then open that NSG port. Once the port is open, you will see that I will quickly get an access to the virtual machine. We can do that in the morning so that you also understand how the network will be set up and how you work with NSGs, because this has a very important security parameter, starting basics with your students later. And eventually you can do, as I said, like you create a key vault here for the virtual machine. The disk which is attached, you can encrypt it. Obviously, if you really want to do different storage, even this disk storage, you can keep data into blob, which is like a blob storage. So disk backup you can put into the blob. So you can create additional container and move that backup to that container. That is also another possibility. And that is how you keep the backup. We will eventually, because why I'm showing this practically on the portal also, just for you to get familiarity, like how cool the user interface they have created. If you look at AWS, I'm not saying they're bad, but it is very super complex console for the newcomers. Once you're used to, then it's not a problem. But to get familiar with, it takes time. But if you look at Azure, it's very simple, right? It's easily readable and everything on the same tab. You don't need to go here and there. And Microsoft try to, even the recommended option, they try to keep it there so that even if you forgot, hey, what option I need to choose, like premium versus standard, etc., whatever recommended or keep it, they say that please use this. That's good for your scenario. But unless a customer requirement is different, you choose accordingly the premium one where you need only LRS and ZRS. Just an example. That is how you need to take into account. But the fine tuning is more easier on Microsoft, and also it is very user friendly portal. Even if you go to the command line, it is there on the portal itself. And once you have the storage account created, you can even create a virtual machine from Azure portal. And it's called Cloud Shell, but Cloud Shell has PowerShell and the Bash. But generally, if you are a PowerShell expert, if not, just go to the Copilot and say to him, give me virtual machine PowerShell commands. Or if not, you can also generating CLI script. You see that. If not, you go to here on the Azure, on the Visual Studio. You need to have the ChatGPT Copilot, and then once you have it, first you go to the extension here. I'm using it after a long time. So you type it here, that in the ChatGPT that you need script for PowerShell. Then also here you get automatic scripts. But Copilot, if they have added here, recently announced, they will give you, you see here, they will give you, you don't need to go to the Google search. You just add and create a new virtual machine. You just click on run, continue, and you see that the request for it's successful, and then trying to do something behind the scene. So that is the powerful tool Microsoft has created, where you don't need to worry at all what are the procedures. And madam, one of the questions you asked me yesterday, I need to have the step-by-step PPT for connecting. This also you can use it, where you just go to the Copilot here and just query that, hey, I want I want to create a VNet. Can you give me the procedure? It will give you the procedure what needs to be done, and then you just follow the procedure and build it. You're good to go. Any other question before I move to the pricing? No question? Okay. So I really want to, because today is a storage day, you also need to understand like what are the pricing and how you choose the pricing, how you quote the pricing upfront to the customers. Of course, you're working in college, probably you don't need to do that, but at least it's good to know that if you're taking one of the storage account in the account, you really need to understand what cost is going to bear. Is it good idea to take a blob storage in account with cool tire or hot tire, and then the pricing will change. So there is a if you Google it or if you go to Azure, there is a pricing calculator. If you Google it, you go, for example, if you let me start from that. Pricing calculator. Look at here. You will come to Azure pricing calculator. Is exactly the same which I've showed. And if you go back here, if you go down here, there are a bunch of options you will see, like compute, network if you want compute, virtual machine if you want, then it will add, and then you go below, you see that it will be added. Like then you choose, like you see that first 200 credit is free, after that you get it. I'll delete this now because I want to show only the storage. So whichever you want, you just go up and choose it, and then you start calculating that price. So now, since it is a storage, I will choose the storage account. I'll go down. Once you click on the storage account, it will first ask you where exactly you want to check the prices. If you're in India, let's choose India now. India, Central India, West India. Let's say West India where Mumbai is. Then block storage, table, queue, whatever you wanted. Let's say block. There are two things, right? Either you choose standard or premium. For now, keep it default for now, just to get an idea. If you want stand premium, I will also change once the price is generated. I will click on this to see how the price difference is. Now I'll keep the standard, and then I'll keep the V2 only, GPU V2. Then in the file structure, obviously there's a flat or hierarchical. I'll keep it as it is. Now on the access tier, of course, the pricing will change. I'll come back to you, hot versus cold versus, cool versus archive. First I select the hot, and then we'll see when I choose the cool, how much is the price difference. Then the last one is redundancy. As I said, there are a couple of redundancy model. I'll keep it LRS. And then you see another thing, you will see that you always, the moment you click it here, the price automatically comes down. You see like how much is gonna cost. It's gonna cost me like 50 euros a month. But then if you look at what is the 50 euro, it is 29 euros for 1000 GB of storage. You get the price 29. This operation probably that's internal to Microsoft, but if you look at up, the right, when you are writing, it costs you. But data retrieval first 1000 is free, but if you choose higher, probably the cost will be added later. If you look at read operation, which also costs something. Write, read, obviously, but this read write is two directional, right? Is one way if you read and the other way write, the same way from the other side. So they calculate in two ways. So you have to keep in mind that data always taken into account. Previously, when cloud providers started, only data going out was chargeable. But now they realize that the data coming in and going out also needs to be charged. So the price, every cloud provider, it's not only this Azure, every cloud provider is changing. Now you might have looked at, now I'm looking only pay-as-you-go model. That means I'm just doing like a OPEX model. I'm not using fixed term model. Fixed term model is what? If you really want to save cost up to 70%, then you go for 3-year reserve period. So that means you give some upfront cost and then you get even more discount actually. You get more discount because this is the upfront cost you have to pay. And the cost, the reduction you get is really minimal. But if you are not choosing 1 year, probably that cost may go up. You see, instead of 16,000, it was 18,000 because you are only choosing the short period. If you choose standard to premium, you see the immediate price differences for the 100,000, like 1 terabyte, it is like $225. And you see below the cost gets added. So different structure. But if I choose from premium, if I choose premium, you might have heard like redundancy will automatically change. Then it is LRS only and the other option is not showing. If you choose table, then you see like the transaction cost. Probably you might have seen that there is a storage cost and transaction cost, which I told you this morning, right? You see here, the storage and transaction, it goes opposite to each other. The same thing here, their prices are quite, if you really want to retrieve the data, which is more transfer cool, then this cost may go up. Any questions so far on this? Like how you fine tune some of the things and you get prices actually. File is totally different because file so the moment you choose standard, it comes $100, and then you have the customer agreement signed. You need to sign it. Then only you can able to create a file share. But now I'm adding the networking on top of it. Let me first go back to here and keep instead of file blob standard LRS. So I see the price is how much? 50 euro. Now I'll add the networking on top of it because the bandwidth. Do I see bandwidth here? Yeah, bandwidth here. The moment I add bandwidth, then the cost, it will come the cost on and not on top of it, one below. So if you look at the data transfer, sorry, bandwidth, right? Here you can go to the region Mumbai, West India. Anyway, destination I don't want. But if you want to do transfer, maybe choose Amsterdam, West Europe. First 5 GB is free of cost. It costs nothing. But let's assume that I make 50 GB. The cost is change. With the 5, it comes to 0 because first 5 GB is free of first 5 GB or first 5 GB. Not always 5 GB, but first on the if it is 6 GB, then the price gets added. If it is 6, you see that 0.8 cent, 0.8 cent will be added. But if you make 100 GB, then you see you pay over the network, you pay almost $8, and that cost will be added. Yeah. Plus, you need support cost. That is also you importantly need to understand. The support, because there are different support levels: developer, standard, professional. If you take that, and let me give you a very important, when you are also maybe in the near future move to the professional career, and you are recommending the customer which support model they should choose. So if you look at, and you see that there are 24 by 7. If you see here, the developer, standard, professional, which is exactly the same here. Oh, is that? Oh, here, sorry. Uh, Pricing. Yeah. If you look at standard, developer, professional, the same thing here. The minimum price for basic, it's included, so you don't have to. And basic, if you say that minimal support, but everything is in production. Either you have to choose developer, standard, or professional direct. The cost goes variable. So if you look at 29 for the developer, standard 100 per month, 1000 per month for professional. But if you get professional one, you get all the support. You see here, you get all the support. The rest you don't get it, like operation support. You don't get it. Training is you get it from the Azure expert, etc. So all those good things you get it when you have the higher level of support. But standard should work because majority of the customer also choose standard, unless it is super big customer like we have, Unilever, Shell, etc. Those customer we always have because their environments are spread across the globe, and they want all the clocks to touch, right? Because the issue can spread across, and the support all the clocks means the US clock and India. If you look at the 12 hours difference, but if morning in US is night in India, that means the people should support here, should available to support if other people are sleeping or other sleep people are on vacation. So that is how the support model works. So you need to choose that support model, whichever. If you choose highest, like I said, €1,000 because that is the €1,000 added. If you choose developer 29, which is exactly the same price. There is nothing like Microsoft not taking something different. If you choose standard, it goes 100, which is 100. And then obviously the more things you use, and accordingly they will start billing you. Any questions so far? And that is how you can calculate, hey, what is my estimated monthly cost is going to be. And this quote you can give it to a customer. You can export that into Excel sheet, and you say, hey, export, and then it will be exported. You see it will come into the Excel file, and you see exactly the same thing what we have done with the different options. So you can either share, enable this one. If you can either share this price as your estimates, how much is going to cost, where you say storage account in West India region, these are the configuration, this is going to cost 50. If you take networking bandwidth with 100 GB outbound data is cost this much. You are getting the support, and that support going to cost you €100, $100, and overall cost will be 158. And this you can either take a screenshot and send it, or maybe share this file to them. That is how you basically calculate some prices upfront, and also check with customer whether this price is fit into their budget where they want to build Azure environment. Right, this is small exercise I've done. Obviously when you create your on-premise, you add VPN gateway. If you want application gateway full load balance, you add application gateway. If you don't want VPN but you want express route to connect to the on-prem, you choose express route. Once you choose express route, it will be added below again into the cost structure. You see express route, and then it shows how much the one circuit is going to cost per circuit, plus how much data you are carrying. As I told you, that this 50 MB to 10 GB, you can choose any pipe in between, or the lease line connection between your on-prem data center to your cloud. The only thing Microsoft support is 10 GB. The rest configuration you have to ask your service provider like MTNL, BSNL, or maybe Reliance or Airtel, etc., and maybe Idea, for example. They might provide this additional configuration. because they can customize for you. Microsoft only support 10 GB because it's too much cost, too much cost for Microsoft for the efforts, because we are not a telco company. We are a company of some cloud providers. But how that connection happens, I'll tell you maybe if you're interested. But that is how you generate some the cost structure actually. Any questions so far? Now you know that how you can use Azure pricing calculator to first get an idea. And you can also do one thing with this pricing calculator. If you want to learn on your own and you want to get Azure account, first, like I said, first 1 year with 200 credit with 750 hours, it's free. So you don't need to worry. But after that, if you want to say, hey, if I'm configuring, let's say, like the scenario I mentioned, I want 2 VNets, 2 virtual machines. I'm going to use the network. So you can, instead of building anything, what you can do, you first go to the pricing model, put some details here, and then you will come to know like, hey, this is going to cost me if I create this, right? And then you can just go build if that fits in your budget or if that much you want to spend. Any question?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, ma'am.
So could you little bit explain about the traffic manager, how exactly the environment for a traffic manager?
Yeah. So as I told you yesterday, like traffic manager is nothing but a DNS based load balancer. So let's assume that you have one region and you have, let's say, another region. Let's say region 1, region 2, and you have web application servers here with application gateway, app gateway. So basically that is load balance here. You have another web server here, application gateway. And now if you come over the internet, you can straight away go to the application gateway. It will load balance the web server web 2 and then connect to the application, etc. Application servers, etc. Or web application connect to the database. But that is basically regional services. The same way you can do that on the other side. But what happens if I want to load balance these 2 regions based on the DNS? Then the traffic managers comes in picture. The traffic manager is but nothing but a DNS based load balancer. That basically they come to the internet to the traffic manager. Traffic manager check which DNS is basically available, and also not only available, it also check, let's say, user coming. There are a couple of users here, user 1, user 2, and where he's requesting to me. Whether say he said, hey, I want, because I'm sitting in region close to region 1 and somebody's sitting next to close to region 2, he really want to see like where should I divert the my packet to. But assume that if one of the region is unavailable, probably you might see that in Seattle region, AWS has an outage because they had DDoS attack. The whole region was completely gone. If you do not have another region where the services or your infrastructure is lying, you have to wait till they solve the problem. Can the customer and their end users will wait? Probably not. So you need to configure in such a way that your traffic manager, if you have the similar setup, based on the DNS, can help you to point the traffic if this is unavailable. Is that answer your question?
Okay, sir. Okay. I just wanted how exactly the way you showed all the options in the console. So I just wanted to see how exactly how in what are the credentials we put while we go for the traffic manager on the environment.
Yeah, we can walk you through on the traffic manager. The traffic manager, and you see here it's a DNS based, right, load balancer. It's not like, as I said to you, it is a DNS based load balancer where it it points towards whichever available DNS at that time, because the user come with URL. They don't just go to the IP address because nobody remember the IP. They come with the DNS, the FQDN, like fully qualified domain name, and then the traffic only distributed to those public endpoints based on the DNS only. On this public endpoints, as I said, this depends on what you want to, but generally, if you have the additional load balancer within the region, which is the application gateway, which is a regional service. If you look at here, right, application service, I'm telling you the same thing. It's not only just application gateway, but also you can put front door for CDN. So if you have the CDN which caching instead of this one, if you have, let's say, front door, okay, front door here for caching into that region and front door here for caching, instead of pointing towards application gateway, you can point to front door, and then user get very quick response because you are caching that information. Google.com is the example. So it is not only the traffic manager for forwarding traffic to the application gateway, but also front door as well. If you see your front door or any even layer 4 or layer how to say transport layer load balancer, because application layer, which I told you, layer 7, but you can also point towards normal load balancer. Clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got it. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, there is, if you go on, obviously we are not creating regions and we are not pointing it, but again, you can go to the same thing. The configuration is not that big. You give the name, you choose which, as I told you that day, like the weighted least priority or something, but now it is a performance because you want to give the best reachability and performance to the end user. So that's the reason it is better to choose the performance one. You choose the subscription resource group, which same resource group as your resources, and choose the region, done. And then behind the scene, once you are here, basically you configure the application gateway where you want to point to under the traffic load balancer, and then that load balancer will again configure the backend pool with the web server. And that way the point is they keep forwarding traffic to. So if you look at here, you over the internet, first API needs to forward to the traffic manager. Under traffic manager, you configure application gateway. So traffic manager know exactly under me who's there and what is my available application load balancer. So he forward the available based on the DNS. If your DNS is different for pointing towards this region, he will forward the traffic to that region rather than this region. That is how it was, because this is basically a routing. If you look at the scenario, when you go back here, they say profile. The profile is nothing but a routing profile, basically. And also load balancing between the two available application gateway or front doors, etc. to load balance it. That's the difference.
Yes,
The
sir. Got
rest
it.
application gateway or front door, they don't work on DNS. But they are not, see, the difference between the application gateway and the traffic load manager. Application gateway, you cannot place this as a traffic manager because application gateway is a regional service. Only in the region you can create. But traffic manager is global service. That means even if you have hundreds of regions in the future, you only need one traffic manager. But if you have 100 of regions, you need 100 application gateways because that application gateway is a regional service. You cannot.
And definitely over there, the moment the application arises, there will be a security group over there in order to execute that.
Yeah, security group is by default there, right? As I said,
Yeah, yeah.
if you want a load balancer to connect to the VM, you need to create a security group here, because as I said that day, um, sorry, security group, how it works, right? When you have the virtual network, this is my web server, correct? This is my application server, and this is my database server. Three-tier architecture, yeah. And in that three-tier architecture, this is my database server. And now I'm coming over the internet. The first thing is I need application gateway. And application gateway connect to the load balance, web server, because there are two web server, one and two. Web server will connect to the application server to connect to the database. So here you definitely need security group, which, let's say web server has STTP. So you create a network security group, STTP. That is inbound. Inbound means coming towards you. Inbound. The traffic leaving, because this is energies are, as I said, stateful. What is stateful means, if you allow inbound, by default outbound connection is allowed to. You don't need to reopen on the load balancer to add additional energy. No required, because they are stateless, stateful. They are stateful. The same thing, if application port TCP 1111, just an example, then you create another NSG on application to allow to come as an inbound. Once you open that, a web will come connect to the application. When there is a, let's say, Oracle database, which is TCP 1521, if it is a SQL, it is TCP 3306. You might can change these port numbers later, but you have to open that energy. So opening energy is a common. Obviously, you open this energy not on the virtual machine, but on a subnet level. That day I told you, right? You have to open that on a subnet level. This is how you make a secure. And even the example which I told you for virtual machine is also NSG, right? This one, you see NSG, where I need to open 3389 port on that particular subnet. Then only I can make a connection from one machine to another. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Uh, I have nothing to discuss now as per the schedule. Do you want me to any questions, or you want me to touch again, like ma'am asked a couple of questions on energy and traffic manager? Any other? Or any chat message? I haven't seen any. No question. I have nothing to share today as per the things, but if you have anything out of the box, wants to ask something, please do ask me. I'll be happy to answer, happy to walk you through some of the parameters here. Any question on the pricing calculator? Or maybe if you're seeing something here. Container, anyone? I think container we have it, right? On a day, I haven't looked at it. Build a container image using Azure. Actually, there's no. If you want, I can touch some container basic today, if you have time. At least the architecture. Can I go ahead, ma'am? Or do you want to keep it on the same day as we scheduled?
हेलो सर।
हाँ मैम।
हाँ, आप इंट्रोडक्शन दे सकते हो कंटेनर आगे आर्किटेक्चर से।
ठीक है, let me do one thing. Probably you might have seen my slide. Let me go back. So I'll touch container, but I'll show you how you need to do that. Can I use 30 seconds just to fetch the water, if you don't mind? Give me 30 seconds, please. Let me drink water. Hello, I'm back. Can you hear me now? Surika ma'am, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So obviously, AWS has Elastic Container Service (EKS). Azure has AKS. I don't go into Azure or AWS specific. First and foremost, because container is first you need to understand the basics. Once you understand the basic, then it's everything is easy in my opinion. But if your fundamentals are not clear, then just knowing how to configure in Azure doesn't solve the customer design issues actually. So first and foremost thing, I'll explain the difference first, and then I'll go more on the container side. So I told you, I think first day, that when it is a physical server, you have the motherboard, where you have motherboard, which is nothing but your, how to say that, you have the control plane, which is where the CPUs. Then you have memory, the disk, etc., network port. But that is physical server where you only can install one application on top. When you have thousands of application, you need thousands of physical server. That will be too much costly. A lot of manual overheads. That means you have to work a lot to install, upgrade, put the application, manage the hundreds of servers, etc. Then companies like VMware, Nutanix, Microsoft, they brought a concept called hypervisor, and that still running. If you look at VMware, which is recently acquired by Broadcom, Nutanix, where I was working for 2 years, still that company is there, where we had our own hypervisor, we call Acropolis hypervisor, but name doesn't matter. So what they have done, or we have done in the Nutanix, is on same server we added the hypervisor, which is a software, basically piece of software that helps to add up to 64 virtual machines. So if you have 100 servers back then, you can take two servers, and on top of two servers, you can create 128 virtual machines, or virtuals, basically 100 servers you can create in two servers in a virtual fashion. And that virtual fashion, that's it, everything is virtual, that is called virtual machine. This is one machine or one server. Like that, you create 64 virtual machines or applications on top of the same physical hardware. But again, the drawback was every time an application need to talk to internally on the same, it has to go to the hypervisor. And again, you have to hairpin. You attach this interface here, you attach it here, you have to go this. Plus, hypervisor will help you to take the resources from your hardware, the memory, the CPU, and etc., and allocate to the application. The another biggest challenge with that is hypervisor was costing 800K, which is almost 1 million just to purchase, which is super additional cost, which people think, hey, why do I? And 1 million is almost like 10 crore, something like that. If I have to convert in dollars to, or maybe euros to Indian rupees, it's still a lot of money, right? 10 crore is a lot of money, roughly. But then container, probably you heard the Docker containers, but there are so many container companies nowadays, the Rancher, the Docker, etc. Even Canonical, Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a Canonical company. And that guy, Mark, they created Ubuntu, or let's say Canonical container system. So everybody has their own flair. My point is, there's no hypervisor at all. So what you do, basically, you have the physical hardware, you have the base operating system, which may be Linux or some other, and you just install a container engine, that may be a Docker, that may be a Rancher or any other, and then you just take n number of containers on top. Obviously, the binaries and libraries that are always there with the application. But the point is, there is no guest operating system you need. That was another drawback in the virtual machine, is if you have 64 virtual machines, you need 64 operating system per application, one operating system, which is guest operating system. That will cost you additionally. Plus, you need to manage this operating system. Plus, if the application reboot, you have to wait for a couple of minutes, rather than here is no waiting time. If you spin up container, it will be immediately, like within a couple of seconds, will show you. And if you dispose, it will go out, etc., etc. So those are the key advantages came along with while creating a container. But what happens is, now any question on this so far before I go to Kubernetes or Docker, something like that? Any question? Or this is super clear? Okay, seems like you understand what I'm talking. That means a container doesn't have hypervisor. You don't need a guest operating system here. Base operating system will work, and you create a number of containers. Now, if you look at this container engine, that may be a Docker, for example, keep Docker as an example here. What you do, you have the Docker engine, and with Docker engine, you can build a number of containers. A company like Google, who had thousands and thousands of physical boxes where there are containers are there, even today also. Google is the first company on the earth who already had container from last 20 years. But obviously, They were using Kubernetes as a service. They now make it open source. They give it to the community to go and use that as a tool for free of cost. But support is doing not by Google, now it's doing by the community. So there is a every year across different part of the globe there are couple of events or conferences where if you're part of the community you will be asked to join that conference. When you are working with the customers, you address or the customer address the challenges, you take those challenges, come and discuss with the community, and then they community the product team within that community decide, hey, this feature is really super important because we've seen that it's not only coming from Amar who was in Europe but also came from India and some other. So that means every customer started asking that feature of functionality within that control system. So that they go and put the efforts working with QA team, engineering team, and the product management team, and they make sure that the product has been available into the next release. Once they add into next release, they don't say it is generally available, because generally available means they have to support. What they do first give as a preview. If you look at even Microsoft, some of the services, there are some words you will see the preview. Just an example, just to show you, you should know this you should know and you should aware about few of the things. The preview means they're working on it. They're giving customer how to say that some there was a preview in storage account I see somewhere. Yeah, you see preview here. That means this task they added a new under the automation they added some task which is preview. Preview means what? You create automated task, automated task, and then you see how that workflow works. Now the moment they add as a preview, that means they want you as a customer use it for free, and if you see that this is valuable, they take it as a thumbs up. If it is super valuable or still improvement needed, they really want you to give some feedback to them so that they can go back and the next release they will start taking your requirement into consideration. Once all the requirement is been captured and customer makes thumbs up, then they make it GA. GA means generally available, and that generally available, once it is done, that means they put support into it. That means anytime there is an issue with that task, you can just raise a ticket, and once you raise the ticket, Microsoft team behind us will start helping you and supporting you to solve that particular use case or any scenario happening between. But once it is preview, you cannot use into the production, because you can use into production, but if you need support, they said, sorry, we cannot support you because still under preview. The same thing when you come to the product development within the community, they don't announce it. If they announce it in GA in the conferences that this is generally available, then only you can use that feature in a production. Any questions so far before I move to some architecture on container? The basics is very important. Forget about whether you're expert or not. Once you know the basic, you figure it out yourself how to configure and what things you needed to configure actually. Now let me go to the whiteboard, and as I said, I will walk now. One thing I forgot to mention here. Now let's assume that you have one box and you have hundreds of let's say containers, and you have like Google, like a company or bigger companies, they have millions of containers actually, because the developer use for production, developer use for developing application, testing some application. So they they basically create, they dispose, that kind of activity. That means they're creating every single day multiple containers, every single developer, because he has an autonomy to create that. But managing those thousands of container system or physical boxes or all the millions of containers, Docker SOM is not enough. Red Hat is not enough. So that's the reason Kubernetes, which is a baby of Google, is an orchestration system. So what is mean by that? Let me draw you. Just keep this drawing in mind, and then I'm drawing some picture for you. So let's assume that you have the same box with, like I said, the container engine and the containers. You have the base operating system, etc. Like that, you have thousands of boxes. That means on one container, let's assume that there are 1,000 containers on the one box. That means there are almost 1,000, which is like 10 million, 10 lakhs container you are creating. So managing the 10 lakhs container and the boxes, it's super difficult. So that's the reason what Google has done is they brought a product called Kubernetes. Kubernetes. It's a Greek word, but generally in a short they call KS8. Kubernetes. Sorry, 8 is not this one. Kubernetes. If you look at in the Google, if you type K8S and you will go to the Kubernetes, you see. But I'll come to that. What is that mean? So what happens? Kubernetes is nothing but an orchestration system. Where it orchestrate the configuration, orchestrate, also monitors what's happening on these boxes. So like that, it orchestrates. So generally speaking, this is in a small architecture where this is my master node, and this is my worker node. On the worker node, you can create containers. Master, like I'm an admin, or a developer, what I do, I say Kubernetes, go and build 100 containers. It goes to the API to my Kubernetes control plane, and he provision to whichever available. He doesn't provide to go to one or two, whichever has a space and everything, he provision it to the worker nodes. If you say I want to delete 1,000 containers, he will do the same thing, go back to whichever available. Obviously, he mentioned by the time which one to delete. Then you go and delete it. And that happens in very fast, like in couple of seconds, the operation happens. Now, this one I said the master node and the control node, but actually how that internal parameters needs to be there. Let me draw the same drawing, but the parameters, how that basically work. Maybe it's better on my drawing. I will put the architecture. You can, it's a common architecture. Master and worker node. See, this is going, you will first hit on this one. Oh, sorry, this one is someone's one I don't know go to. I want is the image. Yeah, this one. So just to come to the architecture, as I said, Kubernetes master, and these are the worker nodes. Kubernetes node or worker node, generally called worker nodes. So as I said, when you come to the developer with an API server, what it happens is there are a bunch of components within master. There is a etcd. Etcd is same like table storage, where the key value pair is stored here. The scheduler will schedule, like he said, hey, go and build the 100 containers. The schedule, it comes to the scheduler. Scheduler will see, hey, I got a request from a developer and I have to schedule 100 containers into one of the available worker nodes. But how master knows which container like worker node is first available? So what happens? There is a kubelet, is a service like an agent, runs on every worker node that has an interface with an API. So before a developer put the command, an API will check whether this worker node is available. It check first, like a health checks, like a load balancer will check whether the server is available. It's like that. It check whether kubelet that the worker node is available or not. Then the controller manager also check whether there is availability or not. And based on that, it will provision the containers. Now you might see, hey Amar, you're saying container. I just see pods here. Don't worry. The pods are nothing but the group of containers. So for example, let's say, come on. If you look at here, I have pod 1, I have pod 2. And pod is nothing but bunch of containers. Maybe 5 containers here, 5 containers here. If you group them together, that becomes a pod. Pod holds number of containers. And then every pod has an IP address. Pod has IP address. Probably you guys know what is meant by the IP address. I think that every machine, if you look at your own machine, CMD, look at command prompt, and you type IP config, you will see the IP address. So my IP address IPv4. Obviously there are IPv6 IPs, but because we're in Europe, the IP addresses are over exhausted. So even if you look at IPv4, my IPv4 address, because that's a modem router address. Sorry, this is router address where my machine is pointing to go to the internet. So this is my machine IP address. So this IP address, which I'm just telling you here, will automatically get assigned to the pod. Maybe this one has 192.168, another .ip. Container doesn't hold the IP address. So for example, when you come from the internet, or let's say user wants to connect, they connect to the pod, but when they come from the internet, they connect to the kube proxy first, which is additional let's say tool within the node that allow you to connect to the proxy, and the proxy will connect to the pod. If you want to connect even one pod to another pod, you have to talk to the another proxy. That is how the communication works. There is also a service. If you want to add load balancer service, you can add additional load balancer service here and allow that service to talk to the pod. This is how it works. Any questions so far? The only point I mentioned is this Kubernetes is very important, let's say, orchestration tool, which manages the n number of worker nodes. And that is not, of course, that are possible with Red Hat solution, with Rancher, but the scale is not as big as Kubernetes. Kubernetes is a super solid and super trusted orchestration tool, and you can build any kind of container system within. Any question?
Hello, sir. One question.
Yeah,
Sir, this Kubernetes node, now suppose the master node creates several number of worker nodes. So each worker node here will be the master node can assign number of pods to the each worker node.
Yes, because the pod sit under the worker node, right? Pod doesn't sit, because this is a control plane and this is a data plane. The data plane only you could have pods running.
No, I got it said. Now, master node is going to assign roles to the slave node or the worker node. So if the worker node over here, from the master node itself, the roles are assigned. The worker node itself can go for creation of various containers.
No, because you are not touching to that. You're only going to the master, and you are, because if you look at, if I don't have the setup now, otherwise I could have show you. So let's say I'm a user. I don't go to any of the system. What I do, I go to my console, for example here, and I basically go first log into the master, and from there I make a request. kubectl. There is a command called kubectl. If you look at here, um, kubectl command or create container. A bunch of kubectl command. If you go to that, somebody wrote it here. You go to that one, for example. Come on, reject. And you say, these are kubectl. There was very cheat sheet. Anyway, so if you look at here, kubectl get namespace. Kubectl, everything start with kubectl. kubectl get pods. So if you really want pod, or you want to get information about pod, you just put get ctl. If you want to, so put like that, you just request it. That request goes to whom? Because this is the command line interface which I'm writing here. That command line with an API, it goes to goes to this server, right? Goes to this server, API server, and API server behind the scene provision whichever, because he will also look at, and it comes in the scheduler, and behind the scene with kubectl will check. He requested 100 container, but do I have the space to create into one of the worker node, or do I need to create another worker node for allocating those 100? Master makes a decision. You cannot just go to this worker node and create yourself. That is not the logic behind.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good.
Is that answer your question, or still, if it is confused, we can go over later? But
No, sir. No,
this,
sir.
this
Actually, we had done some hands-on by the students for creation of master node and creation of worker nodes. So I just wanted to inquire whether this particular pod, like we were given all the commands of a user interface, and through the master node, we were assigning the roles to the students. Students were doing it as a also developing the worker node. So I just wanted to know whether that
so
particular worker node.
correct. When you create accounts for student, right? Like here in the intra ID, when you go to intra ID and you create an accounts, and you create a group for, let's say, hey, this group of users will only access worker nodes, and this group of users only access the master node. Then only those users will get access to. If you are giving access to access everything, master and the worker nodes, then they can make and break anything, right? So it's better you only give access them to go and create a pods, and under the pod there are containers. Allow how they can internet, over the internet they can get access to that pod or that IP address of the pod or containers, and make the communication. Because one pod, generally speaking, also on a design point of view, you might ask, hey, you know what, Amar, you have pod one, container one, container two, container three. Can I put web server here? Can I put application server here? Can I put database here? The answer is no, because better it's every application create one separate pod, because this container can be a balance. Because if this container is unavailable as a web server, this container will automatically spin up and basically act as a web server. So the pod is better to have one pod for one application from the design point of view. But that is how you need to create. If you want SAP application to be built as a pod, then you can create another pod for SAP application and bunch of containers that act as a redundant within. And you don't notice that Kubernetes will take care of behind the scene. Even if the container dies, he automatically, because he knows what's happening with kubectl. With kubectl, he exactly know what's happening on that particular container pod. If the pod is unavailable, if the container is unavailable, he will automatically create another one. Like auto scaling group, he has that intelligence. But as a student, Maybe you can give the global admin role to that master as well as node, but some users they only have access to the pods only. You can create that kind of role-based access control.
The entire control is with the master node. He has to refrain the slave nodes from using it. So that is being designed at the design point of view.
Yeah. Clear? Any doubts on this? Because this is very important concept to understand. Obviously, if you look at there are Red Hat container there, if there are a bunch of companies. I mean, and to be honest, just to be maybe I haven't spoken on this worker node, there may be a Docker engine running it because you need engine, right? You need container engine. So this maybe you have Docker engine running here, or you might have Rancher or Red Hat. Red Hat, if you look at Red Hat, let's put it in this. So they have their own container host, which runs Linux 7, Red Hat Linux 7. But then you need to also work, understand that you have to pay for that operating system cost. If you look at Rancher, Rancher has their own container. See, Rancher is their own container system or even own orchestration, but they also use Kubernetes. They also allow you to do Mesos. There's so many providers also, but Kubernetes is open source. Huh? It's open source means there is a community working on it, and community collects the requirement, understands it, and then helps you. You see, Kubernetes is an open source container orchestration, which is run in the Go language. Initial developer was Google, but Rancher, so many cloud foundation, and you have to be cloud native computing foundation. This is a big event, and if you want to certified also like CKA, certified Kubernetes administrator or certified Kubernetes developer, you have to go on this website, and then only you go to CNCF, and there are trainings. You see certified Kubernetes certification, and you have to get those certification done, like CKA and CK. How to say CKD? Where is that training Kubernetes certification? Sorry, you see CKA. You say CKA, certified Kubernetes administrator. There are a bunch of certifications you have to do, but that's how it works basically behind the scene. Am I clear with the basic of how the container works? And obviously, if you look at Azure, they have their AKS. You put Azure containers. Let's see over here. AKS, Azure Kubernetes service, not container. Then you create a Kubernetes, and you see like they also give you some flavor also. If you go back, they also give you like if you really want to run within that Kubernetes, you can also take some other options like more like firewall if you want to, etc. You want Grafana for your managed services, you can take into account. There are a couple of options. Also use this is free tier, but if you want Azure benefits eligible, you can check with Microsoft for any consumption how much benefit you get. But you have to be MAC, which is like Microsoft Azure consumption commitment, because you have to commit that you're gonna grab this much of nodes. Then only Microsoft give you some discount, and they will help you on a when you do purchase, they will give some discount and help you how you need to subscribe for that. But yeah, bunch of documents are good. If you look at the plan I just told you, if you go for pricing model, if you choose 1 year plan, the price may change. But if you choose 1 month subscription, That might be different plan. The longer you choose, the more benefit you get. Any questions so far? The plans also, you will see that what are the plans, how much is the user support you get it, etc. If you want a red hat, let's say red, go to marketplace. If you don't want something, you can say ranchers. And you see, you get rancher servers, and you can install the Kubernetes also. Clear? Marketplace is basically for the third parties. It's not about the Microsoft solution. Third party integration within Azure. Third party like AWS Marketplace, where the same thing you will see there as well. The only thing might be different is a little bit of cost structure. Otherwise, more or less, they are the same. Any question actually? So I think we have built container image. We can do that on that day, but the basic we have covered today. So we are running close to tomorrow. Anyway, tomorrow there will be database. I will check what I can do tonight. I'm not feeling well, but I'll try to see whether I can build some labs for you. Any question?
Participants, if any question is there, you can post it in chat box also.
Yeah. And by the way, the namespace is basically what you do. You create a partition. So security between the pods, if you want, you can create that. So this Kubernetes commands are easily available. There are a bunch of documents. If like the cheat sheet somebody made it, there are all the commands like creating, listing resources, creating resources, applying, updating some resources. You just copy the command, change the name of that, and just apply. It will be done. Because these commands kubectl is common for Kubernetes. Whether you choose Rancher as a container system or some other container, the orchestration command line, they're not changing. So that's the beauty actually behind the scene. Now I'll take the question. Please do ask. If you don't ask, then you will not get an opportunity to learn on your own. Probably you can learn, but then this architectural design stuff, which you may not get it later. And always ask customer if you are, or I said, I'm telling to you because you might work in the near future in the professional company. Back again, you said, hey, I got bored as a professor. I want to do something like software engineer or something else, and you want to work with customer, and you forget, hey, what should I ask to the customer? Where I should start? Always understand what they want first. And generally speaking, since I have 5 minutes more, I'll tell you, and I told you also, don't over jump to the design first. First, understand what they have, because generally speaking, because I'm working day in day out, like since I'm into professional career, first couple of years, maybe 1 or 2 years, I was just like a engineer, not directly working with. But after that, when I changed the company, I was from the day one, which is now I'm having 22 years of experience. But 20 years now, I'm very close to customers. That means I have no fear going to the customer. But also I exactly know, not 100%, because as I said, there's nothing 100%. Every customer is different. The people behind the scene as a customer means what? The people, right? At the end of the day, you're talking to them. They're different because some people really serious about talk. Some people like jokes also apart from conversation. Some people say, hey, you know what? Let's go outside. First have a party. Let's have coffee, get to know each other. And then we talk about the business. And this is reality. I'm not telling the fun part here. Some customers are really, because they knew that if you come as a strategic partner, let's say TCS, where I was working initially, TCS is a big company, and it's not like a company who can make jokes for customers when they got to sign a contract. They are also serious participant who wants to help customer in sustaining in their journey, maybe building infrastructure, building applications, etc., etc. So when you are at a customer place, the first and foremost thing you need to do, just give you extra hint. First, and we also do in the interview process, right? First, if you are interviewing that company, we said what is the company, what are their products. You get to know more about that company. That is really good because an exercise before you go and meet that customer, whether CTO or CFO or any other company, you should know what is the company vertical, because they are a banking customer, they are manufacturing customer, they are retail customer, etc. How much profit and loss they are making, sorry, P&L, profit and loss they are making. Are they profitable company? They are making loss. If they're making loss, cost will be the biggest concern for them. Also, go and search it. If you want to see, hey, how can I look at, you go to, let's say, Nutanix, for example, my company, I have my own shares. If you go to and just put Nutanix shares, and then you exactly know, my goodness, everything coming in Marathi. Let me switch to English. Yes. So you want to know if that company is registered on NASDAQ stock exchange, then you know, hey, if you look at last 1 month, their share price was growing, right? But if I look at last 1 year or 6 months, share price is still growing. But if you look at last couple of days doesn't matter. But at least minimum 1 month you need to look at, or 6 months, how the company is growing. That means their share price going up. That means the valuation of a company is going up. That means they have the money in hand. They can go and spend. All this exercise you have to do behind the scene to understand whether it is a profitable customer or it is a customer is already declining phase. Declining means this will go down and it will start from here. Like the 50 euro share or $50 share is going to be $10 share. That means they are making loss. That means there's a customers who's either disconnecting themselves or not buying any services, or they are failed to achieve the competition with their competition actually. Those are the exercises you have to do behind the scene. And this nobody will tell you, right? I'm telling the experience out of what I learned over the past many years. And also, before you going to the customer, you exactly know why are you going. They will tell you, hey Amar, we are working on transformation from on-prem. Now people not calling like digital transformation anymore, because everything is digital in the cloud. Because everything easily connected. Digital means what? Every system should be on the internet. Yeah, like IoT stuff. So when you want to transform yourself from legacy, you are basically transforming everything, transforming your data center to the cloud. But you really don't need to exercise while pitching that, hey, it's easy, Microsoft can do easily a lift and shift kind of scenario. No, you don't want to touch the technical stuff. You want to add value towards how you can add value, because we as a TCS, for example, we have 100,000 people who has expertise into the cloud, who has expertise into the Kubernetes, who has expertise into software development with Java, Python, etc. We bring that value to you. You don't need to worry that you have 100 engineers and they do not know this stuff. Don't worry, we will come, we'll help them over the period of time migration. They will also understand how we are doing. So we will do knowledge transfer, training, etc. That is the value add. We can do it easily. It's easy piece of cake. These kind of words will hurt in the business. You will say, don't worry, we have experts. We can come and help in the transitioning your entire journey of cloud or data center to the cloud. If your cost is 100 million today, we can start with 50 million. And next year, because the project is timeline is 1 year, 6 months we can consume 50 million. Next year you can allocate that 50 million. So you are not putting burden on customer. That is that kind of conversation you have to start with. so that customer said, hey, you know what, this guy is not consuming 100 million in the first place, he's taking 50 million, that means 50 million I can reinvest in another project for next 6 months. And when the new project comes to me, I will take the 50 million for that, and another 50 million I can reinvest in different because the CFO and technical officer, because I was CTO, I know exactly how I was running the projects across European market. I exactly know how the cost I should basically reallocate in different projects. And that is how you need to engage with customers. Building the piece of cake is like this architecture is easy, right? You have a bunch of internet based documents you can just copy. You say copy here. Nowadays, you don't need to type copy, change the replication controller name, that's all. The rest will be copied. If you pod.json, if your file name is different, you just change the file name, just copy, change it, and you're done. So how easy they have made the internet made life for all of us. It takes a couple of days to implement. If you look at the code which I was showing on the Copilot, hey, give me how to build a machine. Do I need to remember all these commands? Do I need to type it? Maybe I forgot to put comma or something, exclamatory mark. I don't need to. I just copy this one and paste it. Or maybe I just click on run, etc. It will go and run some PowerShell commands automatically. You don't even need to remember because Microsoft is helping customer to build very easily. Yeah. So those things you always think in account. And maybe from a customer perspective, which is your student, right? In this journey, since you're a professor and maybe some students are a part of, your customers are your student. Understand what they really want. Don't put your own agenda and just ask them, hey, this is me defined and you have to take it. No, let customer, because the student nowadays is super smart. They're doing Java, they're Python behind the scene, they're doing courses in and out. They might have some expertise. Utilize that expertise. Maybe you get an opportunity to learn from them. It's not like, because when you're a hungry student or hungry person, learning from others doesn't hurt you, right? Knowledge keeps adding and adding. The person who feels like, hey, I know everything, and why should I listen to this guy? You are basically limiting your own knowledge. You're limiting your own boundaries. If I don't know, I just simply say I don't know, but is it something can I learn from you? That opens the door, that opens the dialogue, that opens the communication, the relationship, and you start basically become the friends. Because if you share something, you share something. Now look at this STTP program. STTP program is basically the IST approved program, and I'm sharing my entire knowledge to you. I'm not charging anything, right, behind the scene. But this is how you have to share it. You go and share it, because I learned many things. Like couple of madams and sir, they were asking questions. I also have to think, hey, how can I answer this question? Where should I look at? Not necessarily I'm day in, day out, every day touching to hundreds of services every day. Probably I'm touching the services which I'm working with customer, but I'm not touching to 100 services. If I need to, I just go read some documentation, ask Copilot where should I get something, and that way I learn and make myself ready before going to the customer. Because you don't want to go to the customer and say, oh, sorry, I didn't work on this, I will come back to you later. Customer feels like you are not an expert, or you do not have that even if I told you in the first call that, hey, this is what we're looking, you haven't done the exercise. That means, should I give my project to you, or should I give it to my like not to TCS but to Info Survey Pro? Customer will think, and so that's the reason you do not want to give customer. And customer make jokes, but they behind the scene they talk about you also. So every CTO, C-level organization, let me do 2 triangles and then I can end this conversation. So whenever there is a project, let's assume that a client wants to have a project. Let's say data center transformation, data center to cloud, just a project that can run for 6 months. The customer has budget of, let's say, 100 million they can spend. And at the end of the day, what they want is no data center or any equipment running on premise. That cost should go off. But the cloud, in that cloud also, as an outcome, what they want is Every data center system should be in the cloud. That's the first and foremost thing. All the interfaces which customer partners are trying to connect to their application should work without any problem. The fallback, if something goes wrong, my application should be always available. There should be minimal latency. That means the performance and throughput should be higher. All those requirements, once it has been seen by the customer, the 100 million is worth for them to spend. But this is the requirement initial they have. And if you go to the customer for one-to-one talk, every C-level person, when I was a CTO, I was looking this triangle, like the cost, the R. I'll take two column based. Sorry, one second. One second. Come on. Timelines and the R, and another box is cost, timelines, and this. So now you might be thinking, hey Amar, you draw exactly the same. That's true, but there are two differences in. If you look at, I'll make a partition here. If you look at this left triangle with CTR, C is cost, how much expenses or cost I'm going to bear. The timelines and the risk. When I see like, hey, this is my cost, this is the timeline, and there are two parties who wants to take the project. They're bidding actually. The TCS, let's assume three parties, TCS, Infosys, and Wipro, three major Indian organizations. They're trying to take the project of 100 million. There is a bidding going on, and the customer will choose one of the party. So customer will first, as a CTO, when I was there choosing Infosys versus TCS or some other, I was, of course, cost and timeline I know, but I don't know about risk. So I will find out who's the better player. Do I have the Microsoft partnership? Do I have the expert? Do they are certified, etc., etc. And plus, if I'm telco customer, how many telco customers they have and they are serving? So do they have telco knowledge in-house? Can I give my project in safe hands? Those kind of exercise I do. Once I feel like, hey, TCS is the best party, I can hand it over, and they have AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, Vodafone, all kind of customers they are serving across globe. Then my telco should be easy for them to serve. That means I can give my risk in their hands safely. If that is been done, then basically that project start, let's say from the 1st of January, and then the project manager or program director come in picture. And what he does, he replaces that risk, because now TCS own the project at the end of the day. Infosys and Wipro, they lost it. So TCS assign a project manager or program manager. And what he does, of course, this is done now, we don't need to, but he just says, what are the resources who has a telco knowledge? Resources means people or engineers and architect who has an experience working in telco, but they also done this transition of data center to cloud. I'll basically pull them in the project for 6 months, because the timeline is 6 months, or maybe 7-8 months, because I want to prepare 1 month in advance, and then 6 months I have to put them on project. The program manager replaces that risk into the resources, and that's how the project activity starts. So he used the Gantt chart, GHANT Gantt chart, where he put, hey, what are the activities in that project? Who are the right stakeholders assigned against that particular activity? Now there is an agile methodology where there's a Scrum is the important thing. So if you look at DevOps, Azure DevOps, somewhere here, when I click, let me check. Yeah, if you look at when I click my customer, individual my customer, there are bunch of things come in DevOps. Is there Azure boards, The repos is like GitHub repos, same like Azure has their own repo where you put the file, you put sets of commands, etc. You build the pipeline. The pipeline is CI/CD pipeline because there will be integration, but also there will be development. You in the board, what you do, you create a sprint. A sprint is nothing but, hey, this is, for example, a functional contract. This is the thing, and then I will say when it's gonna start, when it's gonna end, etc. So I put some timelines. If you create new sprint, for example, it'll tell you like, hey, this is the team application because you have created a number of teams. Let's assume this is project manager. So President Amar, for example, and then he's going to start here and he's going to end here. What is the location? You choose the location and the project or etc. Whatever you create and then assign. Then automatically this will create. And then the Scrum Master or a project manager start chasing you. Hey, you told me that you're going to start by 5th of June and finish on 29th September. What is the status? So there is a stand-up call in sprint. There is a call. Every day there is a call called stand-up call, and in the stand-up call, they always, the Scrum Master or the sprint guy will chase you that where are we standing today? What is the status? If this has been implemented, can I communicate it to the customer? Because at the end of the day, you are one hand, you are as a project manager or maybe a program director, you are responsible to tell to the customer where are we standing? Are we achieving the timelines? Are we doing in budget, etc., etc.? Because this cost is the same thing cost here. So are we doing in the same budget, or you are exceeding my budget from 100 million to 150? If that is the case, then I don't want to them in between they scrap the project, etc. These are the things happen. So you really need to know in and out, like how you make your own plans for your own customers, maybe for students. If I'm running a Kubernetes course for, let's say, if this semester I really need to finish Azure Cloud plus container, how can I plan in advance? Some people, I mean, what I heard visiting the college and student, they said our professor don't even teach. They just say this is a thing, good luck, take it. And that is not a good sign, right? Because the students are paying the fees and they're not getting the outcome. That means those professors or college, they're not making happy customer base actually. So it is very important that you are like the first slide of which I told you, like how the business work. It is really important that you take care of a customer. If there is no customer, there is no student, there is no use of college, there is no use of professors. But then how you add the value in the customers or students, how you respect them, how you value and create something valuable when they go in their professional life after passing Bachelor of Engineering. This is very important. And to be honest with you, sorry if I say something wrong as words. I'm not saying to you personally, but if you take and make this kind of knowledge base within, I'm sure India will lead China in the near future because the students are more qualified before into moving to the professional life. They really understand the cloud. They have built some use cases before going to the professional life, working directly with customers. I think you will change their lifestyle as well as the growth of a company, because GDP of India per basically earning per person will higher, and then I think India will be in a different place. China will even step down in the near future, and India will be the market for the rest of the world. But that comes with the knowledge actually. Knowledge is a power. And also make sure that if you don't have knowledge, take the knowledge from someone. Do not stay back that, hey, why should I take, I'm HOD or I'm a principal or I'm someone like, don't do that. That's my personal advice as a human being or a friend. For the knowledge, just go back, sit in the room, because you all together you're solving the challenges and the problem of a student. And students should recommend to other students, maybe the future student that come to AC Patel College of Engineering, because this is a perfect place where when I enter after the 12th or engineering, they really take care of you till the end. the professor are knowledgeable, the computers or their program is designed in such a way that I don't need to do extra courses outside my college. I don't need to reinvest something in learning Java or something. If they get that kind of knowledge within the institution, I think you are adding the value into their life for 200%. With that, I don't want to talk further for a day, and apologize if I say something wrong for this. Any question, any concern?
Participants, if any question, you can ask. I think
Hello.
there are, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, one query related to accessing local devices. Means, for example, my local system connected with a strong GPU, and I have two VMs. And in that VM, I want to access my local device like GPU or printer. Is it possible?
Yeah, why not? Why not? But I really need to understand what you have built. Maybe.
Yeah, sir, I want
maybe.
to.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Assume that I have a strong machine already, okay, and I have developed something, or I have a GPU connected that is very costly, maybe 15 lakh invested on that.
Correct.
Now I want to allow to access remotely from anywhere, okay, so that I will create cloud instances like VMs, and through VM can I able to run that VM on that system, and so that through VM it can access GPU services of that local system.
Yeah, see, look, it is definitely possible, but I
Because
really need to. Sorry, go ahead, sir.
means I want reverse way. Generally, we are using the service of cloud, but here I want to use a service of local system to the cloud instance.
Yeah, see, I first of all I have to look, but if you look at, maybe search it later, we offer as a Microsoft service like GPU optimized virtual machines. There are a bunch of different types.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, probably you might have already heard that.
Yes.
And that GPU optimized virtual machines, obviously, as you said, it's costly because they are ENC series, they are ENC T4 series, etc., etc.
Yes.
They are super because they run with NVIDIA, correct?
NVIDIA.
Because they are the Tensor core, because there is
Tensor
no
cores,
other
yes.
system, and Tensor core is really costly, right? And you can
Yes,
imagine you can take Tensor core, or maybe there is a AMD, depends which one you choose, because there are
Yes.
different flavors, whether you have that NVIDIA or AMD or any other processor.
Yes,
Depends on which processor you choose, the price get and the architecture get little bit different.
Okay.
But I'm not. The point would like to say, if you are installing, let's say, NVIDIA GPU drivers on that particular N series VM,
Yeah.
then it's easy to connect. To be honest with you.
Okay. Means in another way, suppose I'm on VM. Am I right? Suppose I'm on the VM and I'm in the Word, means MS Office or Word processor, and I created one file and I want to take printout of it, and my printer is actually connected to my local system. So whether that printout I can take directly on VM, or I need to download that document and then take printout.
Your printer is on the network. He has an IP address. You can understand it, because, as I said, because that's a problem, right?
Yeah, I want that process. Assume that it's not on network, connected to my local system only. So what is that process to?
So,
yeah,
local system you should able to print from the VM itself.
VM.
Right? But if so, for example, VM is nothing but your own laptop. Let's assume that. And so for example, let me draw something for you. Let's assume that your VM is here and the local printer. But actually that local VM is nothing but a virtual, which is in Azure, for example, and your local printer, which is not on the network. The drawback is if it is not on the network, how will that VM, because it's not attached with a cable, right? Generally, we have our laptop, we attach a printer cable, or it is a network cable. Now, a network printer, then no problem. But if it is not a network printer means it should have an IP address, or in the WhatsApp, sorry, in the Bluetooth, you should able to connect because they understand the IP. That IP is reachable over the same Wi-Fi. For example, if you're at home and that network and this network is on the same level, you can print locally. But if not, see, my point to you, sir, you need to figure it out, or we can figure it out later when we connect offline together.
Yes.
That VM should have the reachability to that printer over the network or over the IP address. Because for example, if let's assume that I cannot go to the google.com if I don't have network connectivity. If I ping it, I see that I get a reply back. But if that IP, which is, let's assume that a printer IP, I'm trying to go from my machine. If I don't see any ping back, that means the printer is not reachable from my virtual machine. That you need to figure it out first. Otherwise, if you have no clue, we can connect offline together and let me understand how the system is, and we can troubleshoot actually.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Fine.
No problem. Well, I mean, like I said, it's also opportunity for me to learn something new from you. But like I said, just to talk about Azure, there are bunch of GPU optimized virtual machines, and they're costly for sure because those are different series, right? Those are really different series. They cost a lot of money, and I won't recommend customer unless they have some, let's say, graphical stuff they want to, or they want to do something else, right? Because if you need graphics, sort of, you need more GPU power because GPU is also comes with different flavors.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Any other question? But it was good question. Thank you for asking, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, maybe one question behind the scene. If you're using GPU, what is the purpose you want to solve with it? Is it for a college investment or is it something in a personal investment?
Yeah, college invested because there is a tie with NVIDIA. There is a HPC data center. So I'm from Walchand College of Engineering, Sangli. It's government-aided autonomous institute, well-recognized institute 50 years back.
I know. I have been to Walchand, the campus inside, next to Ferguson, right?
Yeah, yes. So the lot of activities are going in related to high performance computing. We are also nodal center of HPC, NVIDIA, CDEC sponsored it, and we procured one system of 17 lakh with having Pascal architecture GPU. So already we have that GPU. So I want to use that GPU from anywhere. So that we are thinking from that direction. So we are looking
fantastic.
for that. Actually, we can.
Sir, I'll help you out. Don't worry.
Surely, sir.
And probably you know Ajay Patil sir there is in the electronics department.
Yes.
Ajay Patil was my professor when I was in the college. So he's still at Walchand actually.
Yeah, sir. He's a actually I'm also alumni of that college. It means this college, Walchand College.
Perfect.
Yeah, he also taught me Patil sir.
No problem, sir. No problem. But surely we can connect offline, and I'm happy to help and happy to understand the use case you're trying to build.
Surely, sir.
Any other questions, sir? Any other question?
No, sir.
Okay. So, madam, if there are no questions, we can conclude for today.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for such a formative session and very knowledge gaining session. Thank you, participant.
Thank you, madam. But I hope when I say something about the college, don't take it personally, because what we are trying to achieve at the end of the day is how my country. Actually, I'm spending time. Even if I'm sick, if you look at now, I'm coughing, I'm having cold, etc. I'm trying and I never take any money if I go to any college for presentation. Even I visited many